I love this number. $9 billion was gifted in real estate to nonprofits last year. And that sounds like a lot, but it's actually not when you compare. 454 billion was given total, but only 9 billion of that, 2%, came from real estate. And if you also understand with that, that only 3% of our nation's wealth is held in cash, while over 43% of our nation's wealth is in real estate, why are we getting only 9 billion a year from real estate out of the 454 billion? We're going to talk about that too. One question you want to think about is if you have a nonprofit in mind, if you are a nonprofit, if you represent a nonprofit, if you work for a nonprofit, if you just know of a nonprofit you'd love to help, think about what they would do with $550,000, because that is the average gift when it comes to real estate. When someone donates real estate, on average, last year it was $550,000. It's actually going up right now. Currently, the average for this year is over 600,000, but we haven't updated our slides yet. Now, this is in the picture of this slide. There's the book, Real Estate is Hot, Fundraising is Not, by Cami C.E. Baker. She is the author of the book, founder of our organization, and the leader of this movement. And I would highly recommend anyone who's wanting to learn more about how, whether you're a real estate agent, a nonprofit, or a donor, or anyone around the financial world would want to deal with donations of real estate, this is the workbook. So there's 1.5 million nonprofits in the country right now, 1.5 million nonprofits. And this says less than 0.5%. It's actually less than 1/10 of 1% actually take real estate. 0.067% of the nonprofits in the country take real estate. So if you were to walk into your nonprofit with $500 in cash in one hand and the title to a property worth $500,000 in your other hand, very, very, very few nonprofits that actually take the deed. They would take the $500 and thank you for your generous offer. Real estate is not a normal means of funding nonprofits currently in this world that we live in, because it's tricky, it's risky, and I'm going to go into that. If you thought about it without anyone helping you, there's basically two ways of being able to benefit from real estate for a nonprofit, or if you're a donor looking to give. Number one, the first way you could come up with on your own, the donor would just sell their property on their own, and then they would just give what's left to the nonprofit. In this scenario, though, the donor pays capital gains tax, the nonprofit receives the least amount of the actual donation, and the donor actually has the smallest tax write-off in this type of process. It is the most inefficient way to give to nonprofits, for the donor to actually sell the property on their own. So much gets eaten up in taxes and fees, and oftentimes the donor actually will want to recoup their fees and their tax burden back, which can leave a very small amount to the nonprofit, and then they only get a very small write-off, and this is the worst way to do it. The second way, the benefiting nonprofit can actually take the ownership themselves. So if you have a nonprofit in mind and you think they want to take ownership of a property, think again, because first of all, if there's a mortgage on it, the nonprofit will be responsible to pay off the mortgage. And if the donor wanted to get some cash out from this gift, if let's say it's $1 million property and they got a $300,000 mortgage, maybe they want $200,000 cash back. That would mean the nonprofit would have to pay off the $300,000 mortgage and give the donor $200,000 as a grant in order to be able to take ownership. And then very few actually will do something like this. And then after that, the nonprofit would then be responsible for maintenance, upkeep, everything that requires a property to be maintained and upkeep, including acts of God. So if a tornado or a hurricane were to come through and that property would be destroyed or damaged, the nonprofit that owns it then would be on the hook. And they don't want to take that risk. It's not even wise to do. 99.9% nonprofits will not do this. This is the hardest way for nonprofits to receive gifts of charity, gifts of real estate as charity. So those are the two main ways that people think about when they think about donating real estate. What we've learned through Cami Baker's research and her work is that there's actually a third way to do this, and that is to utilize our team of experts with our partner nonprofit. This way, the donor gives the property over, but the donor comes off the deed right away, and the real estate actually never is owned by the nonprofits it's intended for. This way, there's no risk, there's no out-of-pocket expenses, and no need to take the real estate itself, just the proceeds from the sale of the real estate. And I'll explain how that works. Any nonprofit can benefit from this. Any nonprofit at all, as long as they're a qualified 501c3, they can accept the funding from real estate. And this is how it works. So because our partner nonprofit is a 501c3, now they exist solely to do one thing, and that's to accept real estate on behalf of other nonprofits. And they take a small fee off the back end of the donation. Last year, they kept 5.9% on average for all their for all the donations that came in. So in this scenario, the third way is that the actual donation of the property is one step. The property donor donates the property to the specialized nonprofit, our partner nonprofit. They take ownership with agreements upfront to the donor that the proceeds, once this property is liquidated, will go to the nonprofit that they want it to go to. So it could go to any nonprofit. So let's say you have a Boys and Girls Club in your local area. The donor donates the property to our partner nonprofit. They take ownership, and then they bring the house to market. They upgrade anything that needs to be done. If it needs a new roof, if it needs new plumbing, if it needs doorknobs, whatever it needs to bring it to market, they will invest the money to bring it to market and improve the value. And then once the property is sold, in this liquidation process, one of our agents, like Sam, let's say if it was in Sam's marketplace, Sam will get this as a listing, and he would list it as it's liquidated. Once it's liquid, cash is now in the ownership of our partner nonprofit, where they then grant the proceeds straight to the intended nonprofit that was originally to receive the funding. And like I said, last year they only kept 5.9%. So on average, 94% of the donation gets to the nonprofit that was supposed to get to. Now it can be property anywhere in the United States, any type, whether it's raw land, residential, or commercial. As long as it's not a timeshare, it's qualified. It has to have two main factors. It could be any type of property, raw land, commercial, or residential, but it has to be marketable and it has to have equity. Otherwise, obviously, it really can't be considered a gift. These are not like abandoned gas stations in the middle of Route 66 or, rundown row homes in a very bad area. These are actually really valid, quality pieces of property that are donated. Now, because of the fact that our nonprofit works with all the nonprofits in the United States, any nonprofit can benefit. Now, on this slide, we have a bunch of charities with their logos with them, just to identify some very commonly seen popular nonprofits who are already benefiting from charitable real estate. United Way, AARP, Habitat for Humanity, Fidelity Charitable, the largest nonprofit in the United States, Girl Scouts, National Geographic, Boys and Girls Club of America. These are all organizations that are currently utilizing our same team of real estate specialists through our nonprofit to be able to accept donations of real estate and not take the actual real estate themselves. Some more in this next slide that I just went to. These are universities: Duke University, Columbia University, Georgia State, DePaul, Gonzaga University. There's a ton of these universities that are also utilizing our specialized nonprofit to be able to liquidate properties that are being donated for their nonprofits and their foundations. Now, these next slides have pictures of examples of donations that have come in over this last year. This is a $1.7 million real estate sale that benefited the MLK Community Center, and this was in Rhode Island. This was from January of 2021. This next one is a home in California from May of 2022. It's a $7.5 million estate that once it's sold, the proceeds are going to a nonprofit organization. And then the biggest one I've ever seen, this was the Arizona Community Foundation, received assets valued at $129 million, all one group of properties donated all at once. So this is not just one piece of property. This was a group of properties that was all donated at once. So this just to show you this is happening. This is all part of last year's $9 billion that was given. So these properties are being donated right now. When this happens, like this next slide is a great example of what it looks like for a real estate agent and for a nonprofit. We have a for sale sign with our realtor front and center, Jessica Peterson. And to her right is Haley Jordan. She is a representative from the Haven, a nonprofit that we are partnered with. And there's a for sale sign, and next to it, there's another sign saying that 100% of the proceeds from this sale fund nonprofits, including the Haven. So this is a great way for real estate agents to market themselves in a very competitive marketplace amongst other realtors. So what separates you in your marketplace? Well, for someone like this, who's bringing hundreds of thousands of dollars to her favorite nonprofit, now she's going to be recognized in her community as bringing hundreds of thousands of dollars to her community through nonprofit. So we are the solution to the first two problems with donating real estate. We are the Real Agents of Change. We all call ourselves the RAOC, RAOC, Real Agents of Change. We're the only organization in the world that provides information, education, and a certification for the Certified Charitable Real Estate Specialist. Now we do that for real estate agents, for financial planners, even for nonprofits themselves. We have a system and support that backs up all of our education. We have a wealth of documents, video library, interviews, lots of resources for our agents to be able to go out and launch their career, not just get started. This will allow you to attract 87% of your marketplace, because we know, based on research, that 87% of people will choose a company that provides a product or a service that is not just providing that product or service, that are also on purpose. So this gives you the ability to separate yourself in that manner. We have an international database map that features all of our certified specialists. So once you become a specialist, you also go on the database map. This is an example of what it looks like. So basically, we have realtors and financial planners and nonprofits and even people that are not even in the business that are getting certified all over the country. And on our interactive map, you can just hover over the areas that you're interested in, and you can find out all the different certified specialists, regardless of what their profession is. It'll have all their contact information and their profession. This is the Real Estate is Hot, Fundraising is Not. This is the book. This is it's available right now on Amazon. You can also reach out to Kemi Baker personally.